Hello! I have a new sketchbook today. Pretty big one. And since I'm starting a new sketchbook, I thought it might be a good idea to actually put some of this on film and go over starting a new sketchbook with you today. So without further ado, let's take a look in the book. Right. You'll notice that I've actually left these 2 pages blank, and that's going to be a very significant part of this video, as one of the tips I have is not to actually start on the first pages that you see. You get that overwhelming feeling of not knowing what to put on these pages, but that is something you can come back to at any point. So I actually start there, and what I've actually started with is this illustration here. This is a Draw This in Your Style challenge that I entered for It's Just Ellie on Instagram. They recently hit 1.1k followers, and this was something that they are hosting in celebration of that. Congrats to you, Ellie, you really deserve it. And I thought, because you can get overwhelmed by trying to come up with your first thing to put in there, this idea was already here. All I had to do was just draw it how I would draw it. So it made sense really to start with a Draw This in Your Style challenge. You can start it how you like if you do want to do your own piece, if Draw This in Your Styles is not really your thing, or if you have this idea that you really want to get out, go for it. You fill it in how you like, but if you're looking for ideas, this is just something I can put out there for you. There are plenty of Draw This in Your Styles that go on. It's a brilliant challenge, I love doing them. And then down here is one of my mermaid illustrations. This will be out on Instagram by now. And it was based on the prompt coral, because this year I did anything that I did do for mermaid except from the YouTube video was based on the prompts. Whereas this here is just a sketch for another piece that I'm going to start later on. But with that out of the way, it's time to get into the meat of the video. In regards to what I like to have at the beginning of my sketchbook, I like the first pages to have an impact. It's the first thing someone's going to see when they open the book, so I stick a single artwork in to set the tone, or at least one artwork per page if it's 2-page spread. In my last book I did one full A4 illustration of all these front-facing shots of my characters, which were then converted into the icons that you see on my website. This time I wanted to use the full A3 space for a big artwork, which would be the biggest Droey artwork to date. I was talking to some of my friends when an awesome idea struck me. My art is so heavily focused on characters, and there's a large number of them. I've created characters that have stood the test of time and ones which have been either redesigned heavily or retconned completely, as well as characters that seem to exist in some sort of spin-off collection, such as my mermaid characters or the spookies from my 2018 Inktober videos. So, what if every character I created was to be united for a singular, epic illustration? How would it be done? And so came about the idea of doing an Avengers portal scene. All of these various portals opening up and unleashing groups of characters, with a select few in the foreground, as if some grand or breathtaking event was about to take place. It was a crazy idea, dangerously mad, but it was a beautiful idea. Was being the word. In the days coming up to actually working on this double-page spread, I thought to myself how time-consuming this would actually be, how I'd be stuck on this singular illustration for days, and would probably eventually hate it before it's even finished. As a digital artwork, it would be different. I could come back to it whenever, and add or alter elements easily. But doing this the traditional way would involve too much risk for such a concept. So, what would I do instead? I decided to take this illustration in the opposite direction. Less fantasy, a lot less characters, and a lot more simplicity. Sometimes less is more. As an introvert, I am chill with spending time on my own, and when I'm making art, I'm almost always doing so by myself, either in the comfort of my little studio, or on a rare occasion actually going out to draw. It's so peaceful to just break free from the world by observing an unpopulated area and letting your creativity run wild. So I'm going to fill the spread with this quiet coastal view, add myself somewhere on the land, just taking in the scenery in some way. I created a mock-up of the environment on Photoshop by taking some coastal shots and altering their colours as well as the positioning of the elements. In the end, what I've got is a solid starting ground, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this turns out. Right, so you've seen what I'm going to be doing, and it's time to actually get those thumbnails down. Now, I did start with the thumbnails when I was drafting the idea in the first place. What you'll have seen is the digital renders that I have done to try and visualize what I'm after better. And now that I've got that, I'm actually going to draw it into the thumbnails. I've got one a bit larger scale here, I've done the measurements, so this should be close enough to what I'm actually working with. I'm going to go across the 2 pages, in case you haven't made that connection. So we've got the right page, the left page, and without further ado, it's time to sketch the thumbnail. So about 2/3 of the way up, I want the water level, about 10 centimeters. So I'm gonna mark the water level there. You'll notice that I'm fondly using these coloured pencils, the Prismacolor Colour Rays. So just getting it in roughly at the moment, figure out the shapes. So it's going to look a little geometric at first. Starts roughly about here. Now I do know that where this point is, I'm either gonna have to split the drawing in this gap where the pages are separated by the binder, or I could actually continue the illustration and leave the gap as if we're looking for a window. That I haven't actually decided on just yet. Get some of the tones down. That's looking alright to me. I need to find somewhere to plop Droey. Now I know I'm thinking about popping him round here. So I'm gonna turn this book around. Make sure it still fits on camera. I didn't really think about that when getting a book this big. That'll do. And let's come up with some poses. So we'll have him stood there, hands in pockets like that. I'll have to get a reference for this arm. As the arm actually comes out this way. And then like that. Ooh, maybe I can have Droey sat drawing. Figure out how I would sit to draw. Just put these arms out of the way while we're doing this. The joints have just been getting loose. Yeah, I sit like this when I draw. Right, there you go everyone, Droey's drawing pose. So there's Droey's drawing pose. Right. Let's do that one more time and make sure that it's properly refined. I've got a reference somewhere of the peak for the cap, so I can refer to that when I need to. Yeah, I prefer that to this one, so I'm just gonna mark it like that. I think Droey would best fit here, so I'm going to remove that flower. That's the thumbnail. ready. Right, so now with the sketch completed, I can colour in the artwork. You'll notice that I haven't filmed the full line work process. I filmed the sketch, but I didn't show you the fine liner process. And that's because I tend to get a shaky hand whenever I'm doing any line art with a fine liner. And it makes it very difficult to actually film while I'm drawing with a fine liner pen. You're probably wondering why I sound different at the moment and I'm not talking my usual way, I guess. That'd be because I'm a little bit under the weather. Whenever we come to deadlines on any project, I for some reason seem to get a sore throat and be ill for a few days as of the deadline day. And it seems this time was no exception. We've just had our end of year deadline, so I've been handing in one of my modules. I took the extension for the remaining modules, so I'll be finishing those in the next couple of weeks. But by the time this video's up, I might have already done that. So if I'm not talking as much, then you'll understand why. I was a bit unsure of what to use for this artwork, but I settled on using coloured pencils, because I didn't want the paper to be buckling. I would have otherwise used watercolour, which I think would have looked really nice. But these are a brand of colour pencil that I was recommended to by Ellie. I don't normally use them. I do somewhat prefer Crayola, but that's just my personal taste. These are brilliant pencils. I just prefer the variety of colours you can get from Crayola. I'm using the wrong pencil, that's why it's not coming out right. That's better. See, that's how you can tell I'm not feeling too well. I'm making even simpler mistakes than I normally do. I've coloured the hat wrong, but I can fix it. If I bring in the black pencil, There we go, there's Droey sorted. He's blue anyway. The rest of the colours don't apply from there. I swatched a few of the colours that I wasn't very sure about, and the rest I'm gonna assume I know what I'm doing. But yes, on another note, depending on what's coming next for uni, I should be able to start uploading more frequently again. Because even though we've had our end of year submission, even after the extension, there's more work to be done. Because we've missed out an entire module due to not being in classes enough. So we're going to be putting classes till the end of July to make up for that. But with it only being one module, it shouldn't be impossible to make the time for videos. And we're gonna go in like this. You don't want to do this too hard, because otherwise the little streaks where the pencil ends will be more visible. You want to turn the pencil while you're doing this to maintain its sharpness. Right, so I'm going to give the sky a gradient. Given the way those rocks are formed, I know in the illustration these ones are actually a different colour when you look on my digital thumbnail, but I'm actually going to change the colour to match the rocks. Having actually looked at the illustration from a distance just then, I'm really liking how it's turning out. Gotta be careful not to bleed into the flowers. I say as I have just done that. Now I'm going to go back in where the flowers are and concentrate on their stems. Realising how long I've spent on this, I am going to have a hell of a lot of editing to do. Just a little star bit to go now. For the first time in one of my sketchbooks, I'm going to be writing the start and end dates. The month is May. And the day was 17. Now I'm going by not the current date, obviously, I'm going by when I first did anything in this sketchbook, which would be the Draw This in Your Style challenge. Two down there, and the dots. One more thing. Obviously, to sign it. And there you go. I've actually had to zoom all the way out in order to get the full spread into view. But I'll give you a nice close look. There is this white bit along the spine here. Bit of a shame, but I can't avoid it. I'm really glad that this is the way I went with this double page spread. And one day we'll get to come back to see this filled in. So it started on the 17th of May 2021. I am noticing something now. Now there you go. And that will be all I'm doing with this sketchbook spread. Closed. Amazing. Now I've probably kept you long enough. Thank you for watching this video. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. And I'll be back with new content as soon as possible. Hopefully I won't leave it so long this time. Bye bye!